Over the last couple of days, I've had the opportunity to do some more testing with Oxygen Builder for WordPress, and I've started experimenting further with dynamic content integration with ACF or Advanced Custom Fields, and this time adding in some filtering options using FacetWP. In this short video, I'm going to show you how to start combining these tools to build out a straightforward real estate listing. Now, just to be clear, this tutorial isn't aimed at first-time Oxygen or ACF users, as it does assume a certain level of prior knowledge and understanding. I'm also not going to concentrate on design at all. This is purely a functional-based video. But if you'd like to see more comprehensive versions of this type of content, well, let me know in the comments section down below. Now, while we're talking about the comments section, if you're just starting your Oxygen journey, let me know in the comments. And if you're a seasoned Oxygen user, well, why not pop some links to some work that you've done in that comment section, because I know I would absolutely love to see the kinds of things that you're creating with these tools. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at these tools, all the ones we're going to be using in today's video. Okay, so let's just quickly take a look at the tools we're going to be using in this video. Obviously, we're going to be using Oxygen. At the time of recording this video, 3.6 is the latest available version, but I shouldn't think anything's really going to change when 3.7 comes out. Most of the things I cover in this should work perfectly fine with new versions. We're also going to be using FacetWP to deal with the filtering side of things. Now, I know FacetWP is one of those tools that not everybody uses, and there are plenty of other options out there that allow you to do very similar things. So I will take a look at some of those other tools further on down the line, but for now, we're going to stick with FacetWP because this works well with Oxygen. Now, alongside those two being the two main ones we're going to be covering in today's video, I've also got Custom Post Type UI, so we can set up a Properties Custom Post Type, and Advanced Custom Fields Pro. I'm only using the Pro version because I want to have access to the gallery feature, so you could get away with a lot of this just by using the free version of ACF. But obviously, if you want to use those advanced features, ACF Pro is definitely the way to go. Now, once I've seen exactly what we've got set up inside here, let's take a quick look at what's going on with custom post types and with ACF, so you kind of know exactly where I am at this point in time. If we come into CPT UI, I've got one custom post type, which is called Properties. That's all set up as you'd expect. The only thing you need to make sure that you have configured inside here are things to do with the archive and hierarchical, just because I prefer to use that. So make sure that you set has archive to true. And also, if you want to exclude things from search or you want to give it different capabilities, you can do, same as hierarchical. But the one key thing inside here is to set up has archive. We've also got taxonomies, and I've got one taxonomy at this point, which is property types, and that's just been associated with properties. And again, if we scroll down to the settings, you'll see that I've configured a few things inside here as well. Rewrite hierarchical, I've set that to true. I've also set it to be hierarchical because I like to have that ability to create levels if I want to, but also it just makes the side of things when you select different categories just a lot easier because you can see them all without having to know exactly what to type in. And I just set things up like showing menu and those kinds of things. So nothing you haven't already seen, and hierarchical set to true. Okay, on top of that, then if we take a look at custom fields, I've created something really, really simple just to demonstrate how this works, called it property extras. And if we take a look inside there, I've got a couple of different types of fields. Price is a numerical field. Location is just text. Property size is a numerical field. We're just using that for the kind of square footage, should we say. And gallery is a gallery field. So we can use these then, various different ones of these, alongside our facets when we create those to filter things out. Final thing I want to show you is I've got one template set up as Oxygen, and that is just my main template. And all that is effectively the header and footer. And alongside that, we've got the content area in the middle. That's it. It's set as a catch-all. It's the main template. If I open that up, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's our header, there's our footer, and our main content. I've covered all these things and how to do this in their own videos with my sort of like introduction to Oxygen. Check out the playlist in the description below if you want to see more on that. So I'm just going to kind of assume that you're comfortable with these kinds of things. Finally, I've added a couple of properties in just so we've got some content to work with. I've grouped those into different property types so we can use this from facets. And if we just open this up quickly, you'll see it's a normal Gutenberg layout, nothing that you haven't seen already. And down the bottom, we've got a couple of extra fields, and I've inserted some data in there. So with all that out of the way, we're now ready to take a look at how we create the template to display the listings and then how we can filter that information. So what we're going to do is come into Oxygen into the templates as before, add a new template, and we're just going to call this property archive. Okay, so with that being done, we need to do a couple of things. First thing, we want to apply that main template, so the headers and footers are already set up. Do that just by choosing main template. Then we know this is going to be an archive, so we're going to open up the archive option, and then we're going to choose post type, and we're going to click inside there, and we're going to scroll down and find the properties. So we're associating this archive with the properties post type. It's not going to be used anywhere else. Other than that, we're pretty much done. So we can just save or publish this. We'll hit publish, and then I'm going to open this up. Now don't worry about the fact that it gives me a warning. It just means that I've got another version of Oxygen open. Now that we're into the Oxygen editor, we're ready to start building things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop a heading at the top just so we've got something to add some visual interest. This is totally optional. I'm just going to use Atomic, and I'm going to come in. I'm just going to choose a hero and title. I'm going to grab a hero section. This one will do. And all we're going to do is just set a different background image on there, just so you can see how this all kind of works. Okay, let's just browse for a different image, and we're going to choose this one. There we go. And finally, we're just going to put a different color over the top of this. We'll just choose, get rid of that, and we'll just choose black as an example. And then we'll just change the text color. Okay, so nothing you haven't already probably done a million times with Oxygen, but I want to do this just so you can see how we build the entire page up. Okay, so now we've got that. Let's open up the structure on the right-hand side. Let's exit back out of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to just add in, first of all, we're just going to add out of this, come back right the way out, go into basics, and we're going to add a section in. Making sure that's in the right position below our hero section. We've now got that added in, and now we're ready to start building out what we need. So we're going to add in some columns. I'm going to set this up to be a 40/60, and we'll just expand this out so we can see everything in place, and we'll choose the first option, and we'll set this to 25%. We don't need to have the full size on there. So this on the left-hand side is where we're going to put our facets, and on the right-hand side, this is where we're going to use and set up our property listings. So to do that, first of all, what I want to do is just add in the repeater. Again, come back up, and we're just going to type in and search for that repeater, and there we go. Now you can, if you want to, use the sort of easy post option, but I like the repeater because it means that I've got more control over what information I want to place inside there. It's kind of like the loop editor that we would use with something like Elementor Custom Skin if you're used to working with that. And even the Crocker Block listings option is very similar to how this all works. Now, before we start building this repeater out, there's one thing that you need to do. Otherwise, you won't get your facets working properly. And that is we need to apply a class to this repeater. So I'm going to make sure that expand this out, choose the repeater option. We're going to come over to the top left-hand side, and inside there we're going to click, and we're just going to type in, or we're going to paste in, facet-template. That's all you need to do. That's kind of wrapping that repeater inside that class. And then when we create the facets and insert them, it'll know what to actually apply the facets to. Without that, you may not have the results you expect. So we're going to just say add that class. That's that done. Now we can go ahead and set up the query that we need. So what we're going to do is come to the query option, and inside there, just make sure the default is selected and hit apply parameters. That's basically all there is. Now we can go ahead and start building things. So let's make sure we've got the div selected for the main repeater area. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in and add some columns in. So let's add, we're going to choose to add columns. And like we did before, we're going to set this to a 40/60. On the one side, we're going to put in our images. On the other side, we're going to put in the actual content. If you find it doesn't go into the div like you expect it to, you can simply just grab this little purple sort of section on the left-hand side, and then just drag that to where you want to position it. If you find it doesn't go in the right place, well, you can just simply grab that until you get it exactly where you need it, which is inside the div for the repeater. So we can open that up. You can see there's our two divs. Okay. What we're going to do next is just add in an image. So we're going to select the first div, which is where our image is going to go, and we're just going to set this to be left aligned, and we want to put this to the center. And then what we're going to do is just add, and we're going to find the image option, click to add that in there. There you go, that now adds that in. So we just need to now link that through to the dynamic content. So to do that, under the image URL, we're going to hit the data option, and we're just going to choose featured image, because even though this is a custom post type, we're still leveraging the power of the featured image, the title, and the main content. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to be something like medium, and we'll say we want this to be, I don't know, say 500 by 500. It'll respect the aspect ratio, so don't need to worry too much. Insert that, give it a second, and there you go. That's now showing the image. So next up, we need to go into the right-hand column and start adding in some of the data. To do that, let's just select that div. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up, we're going to add, for this example, we're just going to add in a heading. And this is going to be the name of the property. And to do that, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to double click on this, making sure that we've got everything selected and come up to insert data at the top. And from there, we're just going to choose the option for title. Do we want to make this a link? We will. Just makes life easy. So we'll say insert, and that now becomes a link. Now, until we click outside this, that won't show any difference. So before we do, let's just configure a few things. Let's set the color we want to use. We'll set this dark gray. We'll set the font size of, say, 24, and we'll set a font weight of something like 400 and set that to H3. Now, I'm just doing this for a bit of fun, but you could easily just set up global styles, which is what I would recommend you do. But for the example of this tutorial, I just want to keep this really simple to show you how we do things. Styling, design, all up to you guys. Okay, so there's our first one, and you can see that now is showing the right data for each of the different records we have, currently 2. So next up, we're going to do the same kind of thing again. Making sure that div is selected, we're going to click add, and this time we're just going to add in some text. From here, we're just going to do the same thing again. We're going to double click on this, come to insert data, and what we're going to do now is we're going to say date. Format, if you want to apply a custom format to your date, you can do. However, if you just leave this blank, it will just put it in a nice simple date format. That's probably what your system is sort of associated with. And we're just going to put in date posted. And this is one of those things that I really like about working with Oxygen. I don't need to have to go through half a dozen menus just to be able to apply that information there. Font size, we're going to put that to 12, so we get a little bit smaller. Okay, so there's our date posted, our title for that particular property. So we can now repeat this to add any other things we want. So let's add another field in. Let's just add text in again. We'll just double click that. We'll do the same thing again. We'll set this to font size of 12. Come back to insert data, and this time we're going to put something different in. We're going to use one of our custom fields. So we'll say advanced custom fields, and you can see there's all the ACF fields we have created currently. So this time we're going to just choose the option for price. Do you want to include the prepend and append text if configured? Now this is normally where I would put things like the currency value, and that's what I've done in this example for the prepend, and that basically puts in the pound sign beforehand. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to use that. And I'm going to click insert. Because then if we change the currency and we change the details that are going to be associated with our ACF sort of meta fields, that will update without the need for us to go in and change anything manually. Again, another one of those really cool time-saving features. So what we're going to do is just go at the beginning of this, and we're just going to put in price. And we'll just highlight that. Ooh, let's just get that there. Not all of it. There we go. We'll make that bold. Click outside, and there's our price. And you see all pre-formatted. So if I just close this down from the right-hand side just to make it a little bit larger, you can see what's going on now. So we're just building up the various different components that we need. We're going to do one more of these. To make life easy, I'm going to duplicate that. So I'm just going to select it, come up to the options on the left-hand side and say duplicate component. You can see that does exactly that. So now I can click inside there, and I can just change that from price to location. And I can just grab this data. Oops, let me just do that again. I can grab this data, and we can simply come back at insert data, advanced custom fields, and we're going to put in location. Insert, click outside, and you can see that puts the location in there. So really cool, really easy to do. Just for speed, I've already gone ahead and added the size option in exactly the same way as we just done with the price and the location. So the final thing we need to add to our listing, our repeater listing, is the gallery. To do that, exactly the same again. So we're going to open the structure up, making sure that we're in the right location. We're going to come back to add, and we're just going to do a search for gallery. And there we go. We're going to click to add that in there, and you can see that now we'll drop that in, and we can now ready to configure this. So if we take a look at the left-hand side, and let me just close the structure down a second, you can see we've got the gallery source, media library, ACF, or WooCommerce. Well, we're using ACF, so let's open that up. And now we need to just put in the name of the field. So I've assigned the name of gallery to our field. As soon as I do that, you can see that now pre-fills the information in our gallery section. So now I can go ahead and say, do I want to make these linked images, or do I want to add a lightbox? What resolution do I want to use? We'll set those to be medium or something. And if I want to, I can adjust things like the layout. So we can set this to have different aspect ratios. Do we want to use the flexbox model or masonry? Up to you how you go about setting things up. I'm just going to leave it as it is with the defaults, but get stuck in and have a good play about to see exactly how these all work. Okay, so that's the first part of this done. So let's just save this. And now we can take a look at what this actually looks like on the front end of the site. Okay, so this is the properties page, and you can see there's our header section we created. And if we scroll down, there's our properties, and we can click and we can take a look at the actual gallery of images. So pretty cool to see all that working. Now at the moment, we've got a couple other things. City views is fine, and the Edinburgh Heights, they're links, but how do we make the image a link? Because most people, by sort of like their very nature, are more accustomed to clicking on the link and then going through. So this is a little bit strange in Oxygen, but it's not complicated. So we need to hop back over to Oxygen itself. We just need to select the image. Once we've selected that, we're going to come up to the link icon at the top. We're going to say link settings, going to click, and that's going to kind of open up the normal insert or edit link. We don't want anything from there because we need dynamic links. So we're going to cancel that. But what that's done is it's converted that into a link wrapper. You can see now we've got the purple box at the top of the image saying this is a link wrapper. So now what we can do is we can set a custom data source for the URL. So you can see the option now under primary, we have URL available. We'll hit data on there and we'll just say permalink. That's created that link through now to the details page for that particular property. Let's just hit save on there just so we can confirm everything is in place, and we are now done with that. Let's hop back over to the front end of the site, refresh this page, and we can see that now our image is also a link. If we click, we'll go through to an unstyled, unedited page because we haven't built a template for this, but we know it's all working the way we want. So the next thing we need to do now is add in the facets. So we need to create those with FacetWP. Now to set up your facets, you simply come into the settings option and choose FacetWP. From there, we now can create our facets. So the first one we're going to do is the property type, which is our taxonomy. So we say add new. We're just going to call this type. Checkbox is fine for this example, but you do have a lot of options available inside here. And as I've said before, if you want to see more information about how to use FacetWP and what most, if not all, of these different options do, these facet types, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll take a look at covering this in a little bit more detail and see if we can come up with some different examples of how you could use the various different facet types. But for now, we're going to choose checkbox. Data source, we're going to change this over now, just make sure we've got the right thing. So it says post type. We can scroll through and we have lots of ways in which we can check against various different things. But we want a taxonomy for this example, and our taxonomy is our property types. So we're going to click that, and you can see now that's our facet basically set up. We just now can configure exactly how we want this to work. So we don't want to worry about parent terms, but you'll notice that if we mouse over any of the terms we've got underneath, anything that's got an underline to it, it'll tell you what that particular feature is for. So to only show child items, enter the parent term ID. Well, we want to show everything, parent and child. Value modifiers, we're going to leave that as it is, but you do have options in there to choose off, exclude these values, or show only these values. And this is how you would compare the different things that you select using these facets. What we want though is hierarchical. We want to say show ghosts, and we're going to say preserve ghost order. Now, all this really means is when you click to filter based upon what you want, so for example, the different property type, you don't want all of the property types you haven't selected to disappear. And this is why we leave the show ghosts, because that will show all of the different facet options that are available inside this particular facet and still allow us to sort of select the main one while leaving all those intact. It just gets confusing if you take all those out, if you'd ask me. Okay, so what's the behavior? Do you want this to narrow the result set, or do you want to widen the result set? For this example, we're going to leave it set to narrow. And then you can see you can sort by, and this is sorting the actual facet labels. So we can say we've got highest count, display value, raw value, term order, and so on. So I'm just going to say display value, and we're going to leave everything else as it is. Hit save the changes, and we're going to click re-index. And what that's going to do is it's going to go and look at all the data on our site and index it so our filters are considerably quicker than if it was doing everything live every single time. So you just need to make sure you run the indexing each time you create a new facet, just to make sure that your data has been updated and everything is in place. Okay, so we're going to come back out and we're going to create one more facet. So we're going to click facets, and we're going to add a new one in, and we're going to call this price. Change this from checkbox, and what we want on this example is we want to have a slider. So we'll select that option. Again, data source, post type, we're going to change that over now. We're going to choose our advanced custom field for price. Then you can see we've got a different set of options this time. We've got other data sources. We don't want any other data sources, just the one we've chosen. The prefix, we're just going to drop in a pound sign in there so people will know exactly what they're working with. And then you've got the format, and you can see you can deal with various different kinds of formats. So let's just say we want to choose this option where it rounds up and puts the K at the end, because we are dealing with tens, if not hundreds of thousands in regards to this. Then the step, you can set this to whatever value you want. I'm going to set this to something like 1000, just so we can try that out. And again, we'll save the changes. We'll re-index because we created a new facet. And that's the two facets we're going to use in this simple example, all set up and created. So what we need to do is take the shortcodes. Let's go back to our facets, and you can see there's our sources, there's our number of rows, because we've only got two particular properties, but obviously you would have hundreds, if not thousands, on a real project. So what we need to do is come into this, and we'll just say, copy this shortcode. So that's our first shortcode for the property type. Let's head back over now into Oxygen's templates, and we're going to open up our property archive. I'm going to edit this with Oxygen. Once we open that up, we can open our structure so we can see where everything is, and we'll expand things out so we can see where we're working. Okay, so we want to put our facets into the left-hand column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that that div is selected, and we're just going to go ahead and add in exactly what we want. So for this example, we're just going to come back over, we're going to add, and we're going to come down to WordPress, and inside there, we want to grab the shortcode option. So we're going to insert the shortcode in there. You can see that's now inserted it. So what we need to do is put in the shortcode. So we're just going to simply paste in that shortcode we just copied, and there's our facet. So you can see that shows us exactly what it's going to look like. Pretty cool. Come into advanced if you want to, and we can adjust any sizing and spacing. So we're going to say we want the width of this to be 100%, and there's our first facet inserted in there. So what we could do now is we can just duplicate that. So with that selected, we'll just say duplicate, and that's going to put in the second option. Now we're going to take out this shortcode. We're going to replace type with price. Now you might not always see any values inside here because just the way that things work. So don't worry too much if this kind of shows up as being blank. It should all still be working. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the save on here now, and we're going to test this out in the front end to make sure everything is in place. So there we go. There's our test front page. And as you can see, there's our two facets in place. If we click on apartment, this will filter and show us only the one that's an apartment. If we come back out of that, choose the studio apartment, we get a different option. Come back out of there, and you can see we can adjust the pricing, and that will filter as well. And you'll also notice, like I said earlier on about the ghost side of things, you can see apartment is showing up, still seeing it there, but it's set to 0 because there's nothing inside that particular type of filter. So that's the basics of setting things up inside here. So we've created those facets, we've set up our template, our loops, and so on. Now, obviously, when we click on one of these, we just go through to a pretty ugly page. So let's just quickly rectify that, and I'll show you how you can create this sort of single template just to show the actual property, and how you can pull the same kind of data as we have here in. It's not going to be pretty, it's just going to be functional. Okay, so we're back into the template section. So let's create the template now to display our single property. Add a new template as always, and what we're going to do is inherit from the main template, and we're going to choose singular. We just need to choose properties, and we're going to come back up, and we're just going to call this property single, and we'll publish this. Okay, so once that's been done, we can open up the editor as always. So we'll open this up, and let's start building our template. So first thing we want to do is we're going to drop a hero image in. So we'll add, and we'll do the same as we did before. We're going to a library, into our design sets, into Atomic, and from there we're going to just choose a hero, and we'll just say we'll choose the same one. It doesn't really matter too much because we're going to edit it anyway. Okay, so that's inserted into there. Let's just get rid of all these things in a moment, but let's change the background to start off with. So as always, let's open the structure up, make sure we've got the right thing selected, come into advanced, into background. We're going to get rid of the default image, and we're going to drop in some data. So let's choose the data option, and we'll say we want the featured image. We're going to say we want this to be large, so we get the full size, and we'll just insert that into our page. And you can see that's now pulled in the featured image for us for that particular property. So let's just quickly take out the elements we don't want. So we'll just remove these from our designs. We don't want the icon, we don't want the text, we just want the name of the property. And we'll just make this just a little bit extra spacing above and below. So like we've done before, we're going to select this text, insert data, drop in our title, and we'll say insert. That will pull in, there we go, there's the name of the property. Okay, let's just quickly make this look the same as the other section. So we're going to change our text color to our white. And we're just going to make sure that we go to our background, and we're going to come into our background option, and we're going to say we want to put an overlay, and we'll just change this to a black color and adjust that accordingly. There we go. That'll do for now. Okay, so this is the first part inserted into it. Next, we want to pull in some more data. Now you can place this anywhere you want. We're going to set this underneath the heading. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back, add all of this to go back to our basics, and we're going to add a section in so we get everything contained inside a smaller container area and not full width. So let's do like we did last time. Let's start adding our content in. So we've got our section. What we're going to do is come in and start adding what we want inside there. So let's add a div in there, and we can then set this however we want to. So we'll set that to, for example, 100 pixels and set that to 100%. So this is where we're going to put in things like our meta information. So what we can do now is we're going to add in some text. I'm going to come up, double click on that, and we're going to insert our data and do the same kind of thing again like we've done before. We're going to put in the date, and we'll just leave the format on there, and we'll just, like we did before, date added. And we'll select that, and we'll just make that bold. There we go. Okay, so there's the date that was added, and now we can just repeat these, going through, adding everything else we want into this particular section. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and do that, just so I don't make you watch me doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, I've gone ahead and just added all the fields in, a couple of titles, put the image gallery at the bottom in exactly the same fashion as I showed you when we were creating the repeater. So nothing that you haven't already seen. If we hit save on this now, we've created the template for our individual properties. So we can hop back over to the test site and take a look at it in action. Okay, so we're on our property listing like we saw earlier on. We can filter these if we want to, like we saw. And let's just say Edinburgh Heights is the one that I'm interested in. I can click and go and take a look. There we go. There's our full sort of size image at the top, which is pulled in from our featured image. And then there's all the details, the date added, the price, location, size, property description, and our additional images. So all in all, it's not that complex. And if you're coming over from something like Elementor and you've seen my videos on this kind of thing using Elementor, this is very, very similar. So it shouldn't take you too long if you transition over to something like Oxygen, or you just want to test it out to see how it all works. It shouldn't take you too long to get accustomed to at least those core skills that you need to be able to build things. And then you can dig a little deeper and see some of the extra things that you can do with it to take your web designs to that next level that you're looking for. So using ACF and FacetWP with Oxygen Builder gives you a really powerful platform for building feature-rich websites with, well, no real need to delve into the coding right now. So there's so much more you could do with these foundation skills that I've covered today. And if you want to learn more about Oxygen, well, check out the link that's in the description below to my playlist. This is something I'm adding to on a probably weekly basis, so there will be a lot of great content in there for you. As always, all of the applicable links are in the description below for everything I've covered. And if you've made it this far into the video, well, why not give that thumbs up a click? It really does help me out. Now, while you're at it, if you like this content, why not also click the subscribe button and slap the bell icon? But if you didn't get value from this video, well, feel free to hit the thumbs down button twice, as that works pretty well too. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.